the necessity of dying to the law in order to be joined to Christ's new covenant. In Romans 14, Paul does not expect or encourage Christians to remain weak in the faith by feeling obligated to the law, as he has stated in Romans 7 that they are dead to it. It goes against the essence of the gospel message to consider oneself dead to the law, yet still bound to it indefinitely. Attempting to be partially dead to the law, while remaining alive to it in certain aspects and being united with Christ, is not a viable, sustainable or tenable approach. To illustrate, it's like a person who marries again after the death of their spouse but remains perpetually in mourning over their former spouse. Such behavior would not be appropriate. Similarly, believers who have entered into a new covenant with Christ should not forever mourn over the old covenant and its laws, but instead embrace the new life they have received in Christ. Although there may be a transitional period where they are weak, like a reasonable mourning period, it should not be permanent. They should not always cling to the old ways of the law that they are now dead to and that are dead to them, but live in the freedom that Christ has given them. It has been said keeping the law of Moses is permitted but not required, but without qualification that does not convey the proper sense. Paul's ultimate goal is that all believers grow strong in their faith, becoming fully convinced, like himself, of the truth of the gospel, which sets them free from the requirements and practices of the Mosaic law, such as dietary laws and the observance of festivals, new moons and Sabbath days. Gentiles as a people were never obligated to the tenets of the covenant between God and Israel, and for Gentile believers to attempt to observe the law of Moses as to obedience or otherwise is definitely misguided. Any movements promoting such observance must be met with a firm rejection. All believers, Jews and Gentiles, are now under the law of Christ, 1 Corinthians 9:21, Galatians 6:2, which includes the principles of the moral law that predates the covenant with Israel, as well as the teachings of Jesus and the apostles in the New Testament. The law, which purpose was fulfilled in Christ, no longer binds believers. As inheritors of the promises of Abraham, they are justified by faith. The law was a temporary measure for Israel that pointed to Christ and serves as an example, but it is no longer necessary or in effect in its judicial form. As a result, it is of utmost importance and in accordance with God's will for all believers to mature and let go of all forms of Mosaic law observance, as they are now under a new and better covenant. Hebrews 8:6.